Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto and Hinata are Emperor and Empress of the West and Konoha wanted his help part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The Imperial Complex, Office of the Emperor, 1 year after the Unification Wars. Og. I don't see how the old man can go through with this when he was alive. If I knew that being emperor had this much paperwork, I'd have refused. Inside the office of the emperor, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze was seated behind his desk. The 16-year-old former Konoha Jinchuriki turned emperor was at the moment going through the bane of his existence, paperwork. Fortunately for him, most of the paperwork was already completed, as he was hard at work reading and signing them off. Most of them were minor and petty disputes. One major perk about being the emperor was that there was less paperwork than that of the Hokage. The young emperor paused for a moment to regard a picture of himself when he was younger, taken back in Konoha. A picture of himself and Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage. The picture was taken shortly before the Chunin exams, Naruto wearing the Kage hat and grinning like a maniac while the professor smiled, pipe in his mouth. Next to that picture was a photo of his parents, Minato and Kushina Namiaxi. Old man, you would be proud, Naruto thought, smiling fondly at the memory. I may not be Hokage, but the people look up to me, respect me as a leader. He then turned to the photo of his parents. I hope you two are proud of me. I promised to make good to honor your memories. And I've kept that promise. 1 year had passed since the Unification War. The Empire has just celebrated its first anniversary, Naruto celebrating his first year as a leader of the unified West. Since that time, Naruto has settled into his role as Emperor of the West. Despite this, he never lost track as to who he once was. Katami, Yugito, Zabuza and Sanshi made sure of that. He didn't see himself as a ninja or a samurai. More like a combination of the two. One document attracted his attention. It was from his informants located in Water Country. Apparently, there was a new Mizukage in power, and she had ended the bloodline wars which had plagued the country. Even more surprising was the fact of who was currently the Kage of Suna. Well, I'll be Gaara's the new Kage, Naruto muttered to himself, smiling broadly, reading the report from the Pakara branch in Suna. He looked at his watch. 5 minutes before the meeting of the council. This could prove to be quite interesting indeed. The emperor rose from his seat. Retrieving his jacket and slipping it over his shoulders, i.e., his Shippuden uniform, only all black, he exited the office, making sure to take the reports on Mist and Suna with him. The meeting was straightforward. Aside from a uprising of malcontents loyal to Oda which was quickly crushed before it could gain steam, and the financial situation concerning the southern Badlands, there was nothing worthy to report. Good thing that they only met 3 times a month. The council hall inside the Hall of Sovereigns was as big as the council chambers back inside Konoha. The council chambers consisted of 3 long tables, the first containing the seats of the emperor and his chief prime minister. 2 tables located on either side of the emperor's table faced each other, each containing 6 seats for either side. 6 of the members were hand-picked by Naruto himself, while the other 6 were voted in by the people of the Western Empire. The 6 that Naruto had chosen were from the West's most respected samurai and shinobi clans. Emperor Namikaze sat at the head of the table. Katami sat at his left, the council, not to mention the people of the West knowing full well about the red-headed woman's true nature. The council hall inside the Hall of Sovereigns was as big as the council chambers back inside Konoha. The council chambers consisted of 3 long tables, the first containing the seats of the emperor and his prime minister. 2 tables located on either side of the emperor's table faced each other. On Naruto's left, Sanshi, the elder samurai warrior and philosopher who had taught Naruto the ways of the samurai. In his youth, as Naruto had found out, he had fought Hiruzen Satutobi to a draw and had respected Naruto's father figure a great deal, and grieved silently when Naruto had told him about his unfortunate passing. During the Unification War, he had invited Naruto to his village and Naruto became so impressed with the old man, that he asked to be trained in the ways of the samurai. When the empire was created, he was the first that Naruto had invited to be on the council. Despite his old age, Sanshi was well respected by samurai and ninja alike. His granddaughter, Sana Sanshi, who was a member of Yugito's Hellcats, served as part of Naruto's elite guards. Next was Eiji Kibagami, also from a respected samurai clan with connections in Iron Country, as he had family there, which was helpful when Naruto negotiated a trade agreement between the Empire and Iron. A hard-punching, hard-drinking samurai with a mouth that would make Tayuya blush and Hidan green with envy, he was the first to join up with Naruto in his ambition. Despite being a foul-mouthed samurai, he was fiercely loyal to the young emperor, honorable and carried himself as a true samurai. It was also a known fact that he and Kasumi Ehara were romantically involved. His pet wolf, Bijumaru, was at his side. Like Sanshi, Eiji had a member of his family as part of the elite guard. His nephew Hideo Kibagami served proudly. Next to Kibagami was the head of the Chiba clan, Kota Chiba. The Chiba clan was a line of ninja who practiced a deadlier style of taijutsu that would put even Rock Lee and Maida Guy to shame, the taijutsu used originally as an assassination technique. Like Sanshi's granddaughter and Eiji's son, her eldest son, Takuma, served as one of Naruto's elite guards, a high honor for the Chiba clan. In most ways, the Chiba clan reminded Naruto of the Inuzuka, fiercely loyal to the pack. Sitting next to Kota was her childhood friend and fellow ninja, Kokura Yamada. The eldest daughter of a former nobleman and a mist refugee, she was the diametric opposite of Zabuza's partner Haku, as her attacks were fire-release attacks. In an interesting side note, her bloodline allows her to endure an opponent's fire attacks unscathed. The Yamada clan also had a reputation for being top-notch healers whose skill rivaled that of Tsunade in her prime. Next to the fire-wielding mistress was the regal Kasumi Ehara. The Ehara was the most powerful samurai clan on the southern continent, in both influence and skill, and aside from the elderly Sanshi who resided on the northern continent, was one of Naruto's major supporters. Kasumi herself was a legendary warrior in her own right, having led troops into battle. Every once in a while, she would propose a marriage between her eldest daughter and Naruto, of which Naruto had graciously declined. He told Lady Ehara that he would marry for love, not for honor or prestige. That, Lady Ehara could understand, as she and her late husband were the same. When her husband was killed by Oda's hand, he was about to claim Ehara for his own. Thankfully, Naruto's arrival put a stop to those plans. Seated next to Ehara was the head of the Okajima ninja clan, Hayate Okajima. Nicknamed the Tengu, because of his habit of wearing a Tengu mask to battle, the Okajima clan were skilled in ninjutsu, assassination techniques and rakan and were the natural rivals of the Shinto clan, who favored open combat over covert assassinations. Naruto had approached the Okajima clan head for an alliance. Hayate was impressed by the boy's bravado and tenacity that he signed on to Naruto's side. Once the war was over, Naruto had returned to the Okajima clan their lands which were taken from them by one of the more corrupt daimyos. In return, the entire Okajima clan swore their eternal loyalty to their new emperor. On Naruto's right, Ryuji Shinzen and his wife Haruka Shinzen, the heads of the Western Empire's premier mercantile guild, Pakara Merchant House. Ryuji was originally a mercenary ninja, while Haruka had a gift for business and management. They were the first to back Naruto in his ambition financially following the death of Rokubungi Oda. When the Unification Wars had reached its conclusion, they created the merchant houses which had two purposes, providing imported and exported items across the empire and in the east, while at the same time, keeping a close eye on the more unruly villages in the east. Thanks to Naruto, they now had branches all over the country. as well as several locations in the east, some of which served for gathering intel, as in Iowa, Fire Country and Kumo. Next was Shinoda Wakaba, former pirate captain, now a close business partner and longtime friend with the Shinzens, since his 10-boat fleet was originally used to harass and plunder both Oda's and his allies' supplies. It was Haruka who had pointed out the perks in having a fleet of ships backing up his ambition to Naruto. Now, with the war over, the fleet was now used to transport goods all over the continent, as well as in the elemental countries. In an interesting side note, the Shinzens and Wakaba were both in-laws, since the Shinzen's son had married Wakaba's daughter, which had brought their families into a close alliance. Seated next to Wakaba was Katsumoto Kitahara, a daimyo from the southern region who supported the people and working class. He was overthrown by a power-mad warlord and condemned to wander the lands, until Naruto found him. He was one of the key members in the civilian council in which, thanks to Katsumoto, that his major support base was the civilians themselves. Katsumoto's lands were restored unto him, as well as his title as a reward for his service and loyalty. Next to Wakaba was Shin Akazuki. His home was the southern part of the continent. Shin was the youngest of the council at age 23, and trained as a samurai. The son of Shinji Akazuki, a retired warlord who had fought with Naruto, Shin had made a name for himself during the Unification Wars as a formidable swordsman, and can hold his own against Naruto in their occasional spars. In some cases, he reminded Naruto of Shikamaru at times, brilliant, but lazy. Last, was Rumika Todo. Like Katsumoto, she was a daimyo, but hailed from the north's mountainous Lajja region. Todo was one of the daimyos whose land the late Rokenbungi Oda had an eye for, since her lands contained iron mines deep within the mountains, but once Naruto had eliminated him, she saw the wise decision in backing him in his war of conquest. Her husband was the original daimyo, until his death during a raiding party from Oda's men, forcing her to assume the role. But despite this, she was fiercely loyal to both her people and to the emperor. Aside from the Imperial Council, Naruto had requested that Zabuza Mamashi and Haku Mamashi be present for this meeting. The former mist swordsman and his female partner stood before the Imperial Council, both curious as to why they were summoned to this hearing. General Mamashi, Naruto began. First off, neither you nor Haku are not in any kind of trouble, so you can relax. I've asked you and Haku to come for a reason. Zabuza raised an eyebrow. That reason being, Chief. Naruto raised the sheet of paper from the Pakara's mist branch. This came in from mist. The Mizukage is dead. Zabuza took the news well, given the fact that he had failed to assassinate Yagura years earlier. So Yagura is finally dead, Well, I was hoping that I would return and do the deed. But it's still good news. Yagura was always unbalanced. Who's in charge now? Naruto looked at the sheet of paper. Her name's Terumi. Mei Terumi. That caught Zabuza's attention. Mei's the god I'm now, huh? Wish it could have been me, but I like my current position. What can you tell us about this woman? Sanshi inquired. She's strong, Lord Sanshi. Very strong, Zabuza replied. Has a sunny disposition, even when she's threatening Kikyor. If she was able to kill Yagura, then she is more than capable of stabilizing the mist after so many years of war. Naruto leaned back in his chair, pondering the information he has received. Sanshi caught the look on his emperor's face. Are you planning on making an alliance with Mist and Suna? Naruto smiled at the old samurai. Am I that predictable? Sanshi smiled back at the young emperor. No, you're just that easy. That got a good laugh from the council, Naruto included. Even Zabuza laughed while Haku giggled. Once everyone has calmed down, Naruto confirmed his intentions. To answer your question, Sanshi, yes, I plan on inviting not only the leader of the Mist, but Suna as well. The Kage of Suna is an old friend of mine. He is a Jinchuriki, like I once was. His beast is the one-tail raccoon. Ah, Shukaku, Katami said. He was always a bit unbalanced of the bunch. Then again, I'm willing to bet that Sanbi was the driving force behind Yagura's murderous reign. What about the Kage, Your Majesty? Lady Ahara asked. Aside that he is the Jinchuriki to the two tails, what else can you tell about him? Naruto went into detail about how he and Gaara met during the Chunin exams back in Konoha, all the way up to the point of the ill-fated retrieval mission of Sasuke Uchiha. Afterward, he put it to a vote. All in favor of inviting the Godime Mizukage and the Godime Kage to the imperial capital for terms. Naruto intoned. The vote was unanimous. The council voted yes. Naruto smiled. Motion passed. This meeting is adjourned. Sunagakur no Sato, Wind Country, several days later. Lord Kage, there is an envoy here to see you. Gaara looked up from his paperwork. Are they from Konoha? He asked the Suna Junin that stood before him, obviously annoyed. Baki, Temari and Kankuro both held curious looks as well. If they were from Konoha, then they would be escorted back to the country's borders. No, sir, the Suna Junin replied. They are from the Western Empire, by way of the Pakara merchant house. The Empire. That was a pretty hot topic in the elemental countries. No sane ninja had ever ventured there, yet someone around his age was able to conquer the northern and southern continents of the war-torn West and brought about peace, having been declared emperor. The other Kages knew about him, yet no one knew his name. And now, the Emperor of the West was reaching out to him. The door opened and a courier ninja stepped inside. Bowing to the Kage, he produced a scroll with the imperial seal, a fox's head in front of a swirling whirlpool. Lord Kage, may you have a long and prosperous reign. I bring word from my lord, his imperial majesty of the unified West. Temari took the scroll and handed it to her brother, the courier ninja bowing to the trio before turning on his heel and leaving. The Suna Jinchuriki's curiosity was piqued when he saw the insignia. He broke the seal and unrolled the scroll. There was no invite, but a note, brief and to the point. Gaara, come to the west. There will be a boat at the port in Wind Country in 3 days. Upon reading this message, I'll be waiting. The note was not signed, but rather had a crudely drawn picture of a certain blonde knucklehead flashing a peace sign. Gaara closed the scroll. Turning to his former sensei, he said, Baki, you're in charge until I come back. What it is? What's wrong? Baki asked. The Emperor has invited me to come to the west, Gaara replied calmly. Temari, Kankuro, you two are coming with me. One more thing. Bring Cell 3. Sarutobi and his 2 friends. Baki asked. Why them? I have a feeling that the Emperor is someone we know very well, Gaara replied. Have Sarutobi, Moegi and Udon report here in 5 minutes. We leave within the hour. It took Gaara and his envoy 3 hours to reach the sea. And nearly a week to the Western Empire by way of boat. The boat had stopped in water country first before moving on to wind. Upon boarding the ship, the Suna envoy was surprised to see an envoy from Mist as well. They had heard reports about someone eliminating the insane Yagura and bringing the bloodline purges to an end. The Mist envoy, led by the Godime Mizukage herself, Mei Terumi, was also invited. Escorting her was the reformed 7 swordsmen of the Mist. Suna and Mist had some bad blood between the 2 villages, as several of Suna's clans were refugees from the Mist, having escaped from the village during the worst of the bloodline purges. Gaara had demanded that Suna release those who had fled back to the Mist. Gaara's predecessor refused. It was because of the first uprising back in Mist that Gaara had backed off. After several days at sea, the envoy had finally reached the unified West. Instead of docking at Karata port, the boat instead headed upriver. Mei was concerned and flagged down a sailor. I thought we were going to disembark here, she said. Not here, Lady Terumi, the sailor replied. Kimin City, the imperial capital. We dock there in 30 minutes. As the sailor went about his business, Mei turned to Gaara, who stood along the bow. The boat passed Karata port, and headed inland. The Kages of Mist and Suna took in the scenery. To think that just 2 years ago, This land was locked in a constant state of civil war, the Godime Mizukage said. Now, you really can't tell. I always thought that the Mist and Water country had it bad when Yagura was in charge. But the stories I've heard about the West while I was a Junin about the West, whoever the Emperor is, he has done something that is nothing but miraculous. Gaara agreed. The two Kages stood in silence as the boat made its way upriver. Within minutes, the imperial capital soon came into view. Mei and Gaara took notice of the imperial complex, the home of the Emperor, rose above the city. From a distance, the home of the Emperor and seat of the Imperial West was imposing, reminding Gaara of the Kage Tower back in Suna. The sun had set and night was about to fall. Gaara felt a kind of anticipation that he has not felt since the Chunin exams, back when Suna and Odo had invaded Konoha. Only difference was that he had the feeling that he was going to see an old friend. At the port, Zabuza Mamashi and Yugito Ni watched as the boat slowed to a stop, then was secured by the dock workers on the ground and the sailors on board. The Emperor had assigned them to act as escorts to the imperial complex. Who better to escort the cages of mist and sand than a ex-Kumo Kunoichi, Jinchuriki and a former mist swordsman? The two generals who fought alongside Naruto were dressed in their respective uniforms. Yugito in her old Kumo uniform and the khaki Junin flak vest, a signature trademark of the Hellcats, the all-female fighting force which she founded, and for Zabuza, his favorite camo fatigues from his days as a missing ninja. Like Yugito, he also wore a Junin flak vest, only his was dark blue, the trademark of his own Black Ops unit, the Demon Squad, of which he founded alongside Haku. His oversized sword was slung over his shoulder. The gangplank was lowered, and the two cages and their envoys started to disembark from the boat. Almost immediately, Yugito's senses went haywire. Kitten, the two tails hissed. He's a Jinchuriki. I know. Naruto told me, Yugito replied. It's Shukaku. Nibi was surprised. Shukaku. That oversized rodent. He managed to get himself sealed. Looks that way, Yugito replied. Keep it down. The monster cat went silent as the two cages and their respective envoys approached the pair. Almost immediately, the 7 mist swordsmen went for their swords, but Mei ordered them to stay their hand. Do not attack him, Mei ordered. But, he is still a missing nin. One of the swordsmen objected. Granted that he tried to kill Yagura, but still a missing nin. And he is in the employ of the Emperor, Mei pointed out. I will not see the mist wiped out because you tried to kill a ninja who answered to the Emperor. Once that situation was diffused, Mei turned to Zabuza. Zabuza Mamashi. Demon of the mist. I thought you were dead. One of these days, maybe. I almost came close, Zabuza replied, bowing. Lady Mizukage, welcome to the capital. He introduced Yugito. General Yugito Ni, commander of the Hellcats. Yugito, Godime Mizukage Mei Terumi. Yugito bowed in greeting. Gaara's eyes narrowed slightly as he recognized the aura surrounding the blonde ninja. You're a Jinchuriki. That I am, Yugito replied. So are you, Lord Kage. Nibi identified yours as the one tail. Nibi, the two-tailed monster cat, Gaara confirmed. So what's a kunoichi from Kumo doing here in the west? Tamari asked, ready just in case that Yugito attacked. I no longer serve the cloud, Yugito replied. I was betrayed by the Kumo High Council without the knowledge of A and B. The council sold me out to the Akatsuki. The Emperor saved my life. I've been at his side ever since. Tamari calmed down after that. The Akatsuki was also a hot topic aside from the Emperor. They had went underground following the disappearance of Naruto and Yugito, but there were reports of them resurfacing. Any village who had a Jinchuriki were in a state of high alert, or those Jinchuriki who were wandering had went underground. The Emperor sent you to meet us? Gaara asked. Yugito nodded. Yes. Consider us your personal escort to the boss. He is waiting for you at his home. I always thought the people of the West were different, Mei said as Zabuza and Yugito walked through the open-air market of Kimen. Now I see that everyone's the same, from the style of clothes to the same food. The boss and I thought the same thing when we first came here, Yugito said. Of course, this was back when Oda had ran the place. It wasn't as lively as it is now. The living conditions were horrible. Oda was leeching off the people, demanding tribute upon tribute. He killed the men who did not comply and raped their wives and daughters. One girl he used as a toy after cutting off her limbs and tongue, after eliminating her family who dared to oppose him. When he got tired of her, he tossed her to his troops. When the boss found her after we had killed off Oda, even he was appalled at the barbarism that Oda had done. He did the right thing and granted her a mercy killing. Temari and Mei paled at Yugito's story. Even the mist swordsman and the other Suna ninja looked sick. The boss spent 3 months consolidating his power base here, Yugito continued. It was then he decided to launch his own war. A war to unify the continents. Most of the warlords here fought only for land and to subjugate the other. He fought to unify the lands under his banner, to bring about an everlasting peace, something that the West has not seen since the era of the Six Paths Sage. From the look of things, he has succeeded, Temari noted. This place feels so alive. Only took the chief 2 years, Zabuza said. I was one of the many who came to his side. All of the tyrannical warlords were wiped out, while those who were smart enough not to fight flocked to his side, while others supported him financially. 1 year to unify the northern region, and another year to unify the southern region. We just celebrated our first anniversary of the Empire unification a couple of weeks ago. He should have invited you two here earlier. You would have had a blast. I'm sure we would have, Mei said as the party passed 2 members of the Hellcats, identified by the same type of flak vest that Yugito wore. The 2 Hellcats greeted their supreme commander, to which Yugito responded with a nod. And here we are, Zabuza said as they approached the Imperial complex. The massive doors were open, but were guarded by members of both the Hellcats and the Demon Squad. Passing by their subordinates, Zabuza and Yugito led the visiting party inside the complex. Wow, Mei said, looking around. Nice setup the Emperor has. The Imperial Palace sits at the center of the complex, Zabuza explained. As you can see, the place is heavily guarded by both ninja and samurai. Not only does the Emperor live here, but he also meets with the Imperial Council inside the House of Sovereigns and entertains guests inside the reception hall. We even got some barracks here for them to stay in. Since the Emperor's a seal master, his main home is warded off from intruders. He should be inside the House of Sovereigns now. We're heading there now. In that case, lead the way, Gaara said. House of Sovereigns, throne room. Dressed in black, complete with his black cage-style hat concealing his face, Naruto sat on his throne, Katami at his side. He had received word that Gaara and Mei had arrived safely and had just entered the House of Sovereigns. General Kazuma had verified that both Kages were accompanied by their personal escorts. Naruto, however, was curious as to why Gaara had a squad of genin tagging along. Temari and Kankuro, he could understand, but a squad of genin. Naruto shrugged it off and straightened himself in his seat, as the Cage of the Mist and the Cage of the Sand entered his throne room, followed by their respective escorts. Naruto was thankful that he was still wearing the cage-style hat, otherwise, he would have been surprised to see Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon among the Suna envoy. Even more surprising was that they wore the Hitai 8 with the Suna hourglass identifying them as Suna ninja. Gaara, in the meantime, narrowed his eyes at the red-headed woman that stood beside the throne. Shukaku was speaking to him, but he ignored the rodent. As their respective entourages remained behind, the Cage of the Mist and the Cage of the Sand stepped forward. Stopping 3 feet before the throne, they bowed. The Emperor responded with a nod of his head. Gaara of the Sand, Gadaime Cage of Suna. Mei Terumi, Gadaime Mizukage of Mist, welcome to my home. We are honored to be here, Your Majesty, Mei replied. Naruto rose from his throne. The look on your face says it all. Why are the both of you here? And why did I invite you to my lands, correct? He inquired as he stepped down to face the two Kages. In that case, prepare to be enlightened. The young emperor reached up and removed his hat, tossing it to a valet that was standing nearby. Gaara had his suspicions when he was delivered the invite, but despite the missing whisker-like marks and his hair taking on a reddish tint, this had all but confirmed it. Tamari and Konkuro were at a loss for words, since they were facing the last person they would expect to be Emperor of the Unified West. Boss. Oof. Naruto grunted as he was tackled to the floor by Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon. The guards inside the throne room couldn't help but to chuckle at their emperor's antics. Despite being the most powerful person on the continent, he was still a teenager. Even the mist swordsman had a laugh. Katami cracked a smile at the sight of Naruto being dog-piled by the three junior ninja. Knock it off, you three, Gaara ordered. Give him some breathing room. Once Naruto managed to pry himself from Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon, he straightened himself off and faced the two Kages. He greeted Mei first. Lady Kazakage. Welcome to Kimen. Zabazaz told me quite a bit about you. He did, didn't he? Mei replied. Good things I hope. Anything bad would ruin my reputation. Although I am curious as to how you know the demon of the mist. We met 4 years ago, back when I was a genin, Naruto explained. He then gave both Kages a quick summary of the mission to Wave Country and of his run-in with Zabuza and Haku. I later found out that both were alive. Turns out the Zabuza and Haku my team and I fought were nothing but advanced blood clones. Zabuza had taken off when the Mist Hunter ninja arrived sooner than expected. He was one of many that helped me unify the West. Mei turned to Zabuza. I am honestly impressed, Mamashi. Of course, you will give me the whole story later on, she said, smiling sweetly, yet her tone showed that there was no room for argument. Zabuza gulped. Of course, Lady Mizukage. In the meantime, Naruto had turned to Gaara. The two leaders shook hands. Gaara, congratulations on your promotion to Kage. Gaara smiled. And you, Uzumaki. It's clear that you have once again outdid me. I never thought it would be you who would unify the West. Congratulations to you on accomplishing such a feat. The people here are not unlike those back in the East. They never knew peace, Naruto explained. Not since the era of the Six Paths Sage. At least back east we had some sort of peace and order. He gestured to the three genin. How'd you end up with those three? It was after you were banished, that the Suna Council sent an envoy to Konoha, Gaara explained. Tamari was with them. When the Konoha Council explained why you were banished, we terminated our alliance with the Leaf. Sarutobi and his two friends had caught up with Tamari and asked to come with her. They knew about your burden as the Jinchuriki and when the banishment order came down, decided to desert the village in favor of Suna. How did Asuma take the news? Naruto asked. He tried to stop us from leaving, pleaded with me to stay, the young Sarutobi said. Said that families should stick together. But we couldn't stay. Not after how the council treated you after you brought back that traitor. I haven't spoken with him since that day. Naruto tapped the Hittite that his former protege wore. So you're a genin of Suna now. Congratulations. I always had faith in you, Konohamaru. In all of you. It's Maru now, Maru corrected. I changed my name when I arrived in Suna, boss. That was the last thing that connected me to that village. Whenever people called me by Konohamaru, it reminded me of you and of your sacrifice. It brought back so many bad memories. Maru, show some respect, Tamari scolded. Naruto waved her off. It's okay, Tamari. Maru's been calling me boss ever since Konoha. It's his way of showing respect towards me. In any case, it's good to see you again, Naruto, the wind mistress said as she hugged the younger man. You're grown too. Last time I've seen you, you were nothing but a sprat. It was indeed true. Naruto barely stood over 5 feet back in Konoha. Now, he was clearly a foot taller. 4 years of hard training and fighting tends to work wonders. He turned to Konkuro. Still into your puppets, I see. Improved any. Kankuro grinned. You can be more than happy to find out, kid. He shook Naruto's hand. Good to see you're still alive. Can't die just yet. The people need me. He then introduced Katami. My chief prime minister, Lady Katami Akashiya. Katami bowed in greeting. As she did so, Shukaku recognized her aura immediately. She is the Nine Tails. Shukaku screamed in Gaara's mind. She is the Kyuubi in human form. Katami saw the look on Gaara's face and could only guess as to what the one tail was saying to its container. So Shukaku figured it out, huh? She asked, smiling meanly. How is the rodent? Hey, I resent that, Shukaku shouted. Shut up, Shukaku, you're giving me a headache, Gaara muttered. To Katami, he said, is it true? You're the Nine Tails. That I am, Katami confirmed. Tamari and Kankuro blinked. They looked at the female redhead, who was looking on with a smug look. This was the same nine-tailed fox that they seen during the Tsunoto invasion. Maru, Moegi and Udon already knew about Naruto's secret, but was surprised to find out that the Nine Tails was a woman. Are you sure, Gaara? Kankuro asked. She can't be the most powerful of the Biju. That was when Tamari tapped him on the shoulder, before pointing at the Empire's prime minister. When Kankuro looked in her direction, he first felt the wave of killer intent directed at him. Then his jaw hit the ground, as did everyone else's save for Gaara and the Neo Maru Corps. You were saying, Kankuro? Katami asked sweetly as her nine tails snaked around her eyes glowing an inhuman red, the pupils slitted. The puppet master waved his hands in a placating manner. Okay, I'm convinced. Please don't kill me. Well, since you said please, Katami replied as the tails vanished, her eyes reverting to normal. Show off, Shukaku muttered. It's true that Katami is the strongest of the tailed beasts, but they are not demons as most people would think, Naruto explained. We Biju are more connected to nature, Katami seconded. But after we were separated from the 10-tailed beast, some pompous little pedant had the brilliant idea to turn the tailed beasts into weapons by sealing them inside humans, creating the Jinchuriki. As to how Katami is free, I studied the seal and reversed engineered it. I freed her with all 9 tails of power. That much is true, Shukaku confirmed it. One thing about us Biju is that we are incapable of lying. Okay, enough talk, Naruto said. You must be hungry and tired from your trip. Consider yourselves guests in my home. He summoned a valet who was standing nearby. Take them to the guest quarters. See to their comfort. Yes, Your Majesty, the valet said. Later on following dinner, Naruto entertained his guests with past war stories. May, on the other hand, had hauled Zabuza off to raid the Imperial Palace's sake stash. It would be late night when a shit-faced Mizukage and a equally sloshed commander of the demon unit staggered into the Imperial Palace's guest room. Zabuza did a face plant into the couch, while May staggered to her guest room. Rather than retire to her own chambers, Katami shifted into her fox form and founded a shaded area within the complex's grounds and fell asleep there. Naruto and Gaara were on the balcony of the guest quarters, overlooking the city. I think it's safe to say that Tamari has fallen in love with Kimen City, Gaara noted. You've proven to be the most unpredictable ninja once again, Uzumaki. You think the city's nice? Wait till I tell her about the hot springs resort in the mountains, Naruto replied. She'll never want to leave then. The Suna Jinchuriki cracked a small grin. I'll bet. Tamari always loved hot springs. The ninja back home always talked about the West, that going there is for the foolish and the crazy. Not even Orochimaru or the Akatsuki would even dare to come here, let alone Konoha. Naruto frowned. He knew that this would come. What's been happening ever since I left? From what I managed to hear, the council pardoned the Uchiha for his attempted defection, Gaara said. They place the blame on both his cursed seal and on you. After your banishment, every single alliance and trade agreement that Konoha had because of you were dissolved. Wave, snow, hot water, Konoha is a virtual pariah in the shinobi world. Wherever they go, they are not welcome. In some cases, they are not allowed entry into some of the towns, forcing their ninja to go in using henges and aliases. I bet they blame me for that too. Naruto was not the least bit surprised with Gaara's reply. They do, the redhead replied. After talking for several more minutes, the two leaders decided to retire for the night. After all, tomorrow would be a big day for all parties involved. The following day, a special meeting was taking place inside the House of Sovereigns. The Emperor had convened his Imperial Council, and this time, the two Kages were present. Two more chairs were placed at the head table. Gaara and Mei sat on Naruto's right, while Katami remained on his left. Naruto himself dressed for the occasion, his white shirt, black vest, long coat, pants and boots, while Gaara and Mei were in their respective Kage robes of state. This meeting of the Imperial Council is now called to order, Naruto announced. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce to this council, Godime Kazakage Gaara of the Sand. Gaara rose from his seat and bowed. And Godime Mizukage Mei Terumi. Mei followed suit. Once both Kages were seated, Naruto continued. This is the Imperial Council. You already know my Prime Minister, Katami Akashiya. After Naruto got through introducing the council members to the two Kages, the meeting was underway. Thanks to our Emperor, the Empire is strong, Sanshi began, but even the strongest of the nations can use an ally or two. His Imperial Majesty spoke highly of you, Lord Kazekage, and General Mamashi also praised your leadership abilities, Lady Mizukage. Which is why we are here to discuss terms of a military and trade alliance. Go on, Gaara prodded. At Naruto's nod, a valet approached the head table and placed two binders in front of Gaara and Mei before retreating back to his original post. The terms are agreeable and very generous, Sanshi continued. We already have branches of the Pakara merchant house in both Suna and Mist, which is already covered in the trade agreements. As for military aid, it's really quite simple. If you ever need a hand, then the Empire will come to your aid. There's a catch, isn't it? Mei asked, leafing through the document. Yes, Naruto replied. Only one condition. That the both of you will allow an imperial consulate in your respective villages, and in response, I will allow a Suna and Mist consulate to be placed here in the capital. Of course, my representatives will follow and honor the rules of your respective villages, and your representatives will honor and respect the rules of the Empire. The representatives you appoint will answer directly to you, and the same applies with my representatives. As an added bonus, you get your products at a reduced price through the Pakara shops. Can we assign a garrison of ninja to defend the embassy if necessary? Gaara asked. Naruto nodded. I see no problem with that, as long as I can do the same. There's two compounds in the city that are empty. You can use them if you wish. So, do we have an agreement? Gaara and Mei exchanged glances. It took them only a moment to decide. Within seconds, their signature and their Hanko seals was on the documents, followed by Naruto's own. 1 month had passed since the unified West, Suna and Mist had formed their alliance. Their respective consulates were in place in both East and West. In Kimen, the Suna representative was Temari herself, having volunteered for the position. Her reason? She wanted a change of scenery and she had grown quite attached to the imperial capital. Naruto suspected that the hot springs resort in the Laja Mountains may have had an influence in Temari's decision. At least Gaara sent someone he trusted. Mei had sent a former Mist swordsman who was also a relative of hers as the Mist representative. In truth, her family had adopted him and he took on their family name. Takeshi Terumi. Naruto had emerged from a meeting of the Imperial Council in high spirits. Ever since Yukie had started to film her movies here, the Western Empire has seen a major boost in tourism, particularly at the resort towns of North Tomo in the northern region and Tears Point in the south. Even the annual tournaments were beginning to draw in ninja from the east, hoping to make a name for themselves by taking on the best the West has to offer. They all failed. Miserably. The main reason for Naruto's good mood was that he had no paperwork to do. Actually, he did, but he left that to the shadow clones, allowing him to meditate and train. He was a hands-on type of emperor, but even he needed a break from the paperwork. Upon exiting the House of Sovereigns, Naruto was met by a Suna Junin, one of many who was part of the Suna garrison assigned to the Suna consulate. He was accompanied by Maru, Moegi and Udon. Lord Emperor, the Suna ninja greeted, taking a knee. Hey, boss, the three genin greeted, bowing to the older teenager. Maru, what are you three doing here? I thought you were in Suna, Naruto said. Ordering the Junin to rise, he asked, what is it? The Suna ninja produced 2 scrolls with the Suna seal. From Lord Kage, he said before vanishing in a poof of smoke. Naruto looked at the scroll for a moment, before breaking the seal and opening it. It was a note, from Gaara to him. Lord Namikaze, if you are reading this, then Sarutobi and his friends have arrived safe and sound. The Chunin exams are 6 months away and their Junin sensei was injured in a minor skirmish with ninja from the cloud. I have no other Junin to spare at the time, which is why I have sent them to you. Sarutobi and his friends look up to you and respect you a great deal, as I have seen back during the Chunin exams in Konoha. I am asking that you train these 3 for the upcoming Chunin exams, which will be held in Suna. Enclosed in the second scroll is their files and their specialties and weaknesses. I have already notified Tamari at the Councilate. Consider this their first S-ranked assignment. I know that you will not disappoint me, Lord Emperor. I am expecting great things from these 3. Gaara of the Sand, Godime Kage of Suna. Well, boss, Maru prodded. What does it say? Naruto smiled at the younger genin. You 3 are as of this moment, on your first official S-class mission. Really? Awesome, came the reply from the trio. Your mission is a 6-month assignment from the Kage himself, Naruto continued. He has left the 3 here in order to train for the upcoming Chunin exams. As the 3 genin cheered, Naruto flagged down a passing valet. These 3 are considered guests in my home. Show them the guest quarters and get them settled in. The valet bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. Naruto turned to the 3 genin. Follow her inside. She will get you settled in. Maru and his teammates nodded eagerly and followed the valet towards the imperial palace. The emperor turned on his heel and entered the hall. As he headed for his office, he undid the second scroll and began to read it. Maru's specialty is ninjutsu, just like old man Sachirobi. Moegi knows the basics of medical ninjutsu, and Udon shows promise in hand-to-hand combat, Naruto thought as he continued to read. They're a bunch of misfits, but they show promise. Kinda reminds me of myself when I was younger. This can be interesting. Rounding the corridor, he saw Sanshi chatting with Hayate Okajima, Kokura Yamada and Kota Chiba. Before they could say anything, Naruto had beaten them to the point. You 4, my office. Curious as to what their emperor would want, they followed him inside. 10 minutes later, Maru Sarutobi, Moegi and Udon stood before the emperor, the boy that they had long since admired since their days back in Konoha. And he was not alone. Standing alongside Naruto were 4 people that they recognized from their last visit. Naruto had explained the request from Gaara in regards to the 3 kids standing before them, and had requested that they assist in their training. Not one to back down from a challenge, Sanshi and the 3 council members agreed. Gaara's entrusted you 3 to my care, to train you for the Chunin exams, Naruto intoned, his face serious. But I cannot do this alone, which is why I enlisted the help of these 4 upstanding warriors. I fought with them during the Unification Wars, and I trust them with my life. Mondays, I will teach you taijutsu, as well as chakra control and endurance training. Tuesdays, Sanshi will train you 3 in basic weapons combat and tactics. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I got something special planned. Maru, you will learn ninjutsu from Okajima. At that, the Tengu bowed. Moegi, as you are studying to be a medic ninja, you will spend time with Yamada. Kota bowed as well. And Udon, you will receive intermediate and advanced taijutsu training from the Chiba clan, mostly from Takuma. The Chiba clan head followed suit. Sanshi sized the three Suna genin up. So, this is your little pet project. Train these three into battle-ready ninja. You got your work cut out for you, chief. Maru puffed at that insult. Hey, I'm gonna be a great ninja. Like the boss and my grandpa. Sanshi looked at Maru. And who are you? Maru Sarutobi. Sanshi recognized the name immediately. Sarutobi. Your grandfather was Hiruzen Sarutobi. You knew him. Knew him. I fought him when I was younger, Sanshi replied. The chief admired him a great deal. As did I. Good man, good ninja. Although it's a bit late, the chiefs told me about his passing. You do have my sympathies. They're a group of misfits, but they got heart and guts, Naruto added. That goes a long way. I see in them plenty of potential. Potential to even surpass me. They got spirit, too, Okajima added. I'll send in one of my best ninja to assist in the training. You have the full support of the Okajima clan in this, chief. Naruto turned to the three Suna genin. I will warn you in advance. These four are not to be taken lightly, as am I. We will push you to the extent of your abilities. We will be hard, but we will also be fair. I will not make the same mistakes as Hatake did with myself, the emo and the banshee. You will receive equal training. And I will be in contact with Tamari, who will be passing on your progress reports to Gaara. By the time the Chunin exams come around, you three will be the talk of the town. Do I make myself clear? Yes, boss. Maru, Moegi and Udon shouted in chorus. You three will have the weekend off, Naruto said as he dismissed the four council members. Come Monday, your training will begin. There will be risks, but the rewards will be great. Since this is the first journal I've decided to keep since being crowned as emperor, this counts as volume 2. Right now, I'm watching Sanshi train Maru, Moegi and Udon. They call themselves the Neo Maru Corps, but Tamari likes to call them Team Misfits. From what I've heard, their pranks in Suna were legendary. Of course, changing Konkuro's war paint was pure genius on their part. Tamari told me that Konkuro had his puppets chasing them all through Suna for the 3 weeks into the training, and from the look of things, Sarutobi, Moegi and Udon are really getting into their mission. So far, Sanshi, Kota, Okajima and Chiba have given me nothing but positive reviews in response to their training. Even they seem to be responsive to my taijutsu and chakra training. Tamari even dropped by earlier this week to check up on their training, and even she had to admit that they would make fine Chunin for the sand. By the time the Junin exams come around, they would pass with flying colors. Sanshi is a jack of all trades, a master of all weapons. Maru's been learning how to fight with a staff. Moegi likes the tonfas, while Udon prefers to mix it up with short blades, like a pair of kunai or a pair of tantos. When Tamari asked me why Maru chose the staff as a weapon, I explained to her that old man Sarutobi, his grandfather, was an expert with the bow. From the look of things, I got a prodigy on my hands. Not 1, but 3. Old man, you would be proud. Entry 2. While visiting Gaara in Suna, I received word from my network stationed in Lightning Country. The rakeage has been overthrown by a more hardline rakeage. Even more worse was that the new rakeage is backed by Orochimaru. Luckily the lightning offices of the Pakera house were untouched. The first order of the Godime rakeage was the immediate termination of his predecessor and his brother, Killer Bee, as they both were considered threats to the Godime's rule. I had the elite guard with me, so after activating the Fox Eye, I activated the Demon's Gate Jutsu. The Demon's Gate Jutsu was something that Katami and I had developed. Based off my father's Hiroshin Jutsu, I can transport a large number of people with me to any location I deem fit. Seeing as how I visited Kumo when I was first banished, it was not a problem. Once the nausea passed, We headed for A and B's last known location. We reached them in the nick of time, as they were assaulted by the Kumo Anbu. A was injured and B was trying to protect his brother at any costs, his chakra reserves depleted. That's where we came in, and decimated the Kumo Anbu. Thankfully, B and his brother were still alive. Once the bodies were disposed of by fire, I returned to Suna with the Jinchuriki and his brother. Yugito was pretty surprised when I showed up with the deposed Raikage and his brother. I told her to watch over them as I made plans. Once I regained consciousness, I visited them both. A and B were surprised to find out that Yugito was working for me, and they were even more surprised as to who I was. The banished ninja from Konoha, now Emperor of the West. Not to say that I had a surprise of his own. When I confirmed that Minato Namikaze was my father, I told me that both him and my old man mixed it up in the last shinobi war. I also said that despite everything, he respected my father a great deal, and that his death was a tragedy. At least I know he wasn't lying to me. After talking a bit more, I gave A and B my offer. Since they are marked men, there was no place safe for them in the elemental countries. So I offered them political asylum within the empire. I had the experience of being a leader, which would make him perfect for the job of senior advisor. Damn, Sanshi turned me down again. As for B, the trading town of Rara needed a new leader. A and B accepted. In a way, A was relieved to be free of the position of Raikage. Even though it almost got him killed. He had suspected that the council and the most senior ninja were plotting something. I confirmed his suspicious when I told him that the Anbu that were chasing after him had the cursed seal, meaning that Orochimaru had backed the new Raikage, or worse, placed a puppet ruler in the leadership role. I relayed the events to all Pakara houses in the elemental countries, telling them to keep alert. Once A has recovered enough to travel, we'll head back to Kimen. Entry 3. Right now, I'm at the ruins of the Fire Temple. Chiriku has been killed. I guess I should start from the beginning. Somehow, I got roped into going on an inspection tour of the Pakara merchant houses in the east with Ryuji and Haruka. My elite guards, as well as Team Misfit, accompanied me on this little 2-month-long expedition. Well, I would be lying if I said that I was concerned. I still have that banishment order on my head, not to mention the kill on-sight decree. Damn, I hate Konoha, which is why I am dressed incognito. The fire capital housed the Pakara merchant house. I realized that the capital was not that far from Chiriku and the temple. I decided to visit Chiriku and pay my respects. Only when I arrived at the temple, I found the place in ruins, most of the monks slaughtered. A surviving monk told me and my envoy the story. Hidan and Kazuku had paid a deadly visit to the temple and leveled the place after killing most of the monks and taking Chiriku's body to the hidden bounty station near the border. My reaction was instant. I told the others to remain at the temple to lend a hand. I retrieved my sword, kunais, seals and flak vest, but still kept the black cage hat over my face to hide my identity. Swearing a blood oath to avenge Chiriku and to kill the zombie brothers, I took off in pursuit. It took me 30 minutes to reach the border, but I found the underground bounty station, along with Hidan and Kazuku. The latter watched as Hidan initiated the Jashin ritual and curse jutsu on Asuma Sarutobi. My first intention was to let Asuma kill himself trying to stop Hidan, but old man Sarutobi would probably be pissed if I let his son die. So I went with plan B. First, I dealt with Kazuku. Using the chakra chains jutsu, I incapacitated him. Then I turned my attention to Hidan. Flashback. Hidan's eyes nearly bulged out of his skull as Naruto impaled him with his kunai. Even Kakuzu was in shock. How was this possible? Hidan was virtually immortal. Now, he was dying at the hands of this newcomer, who had all but virtually killed him with no effort. With a roar, Naruto slid his blade violently to the side, causing Hidan's insides to spill out. The follower of Jashin sank to his knees, hands holding his torso in a futile attempt in trying to keep his insides from coming out. Hidan looked into the golden eyes of his soon-to-be killer. How is this possible? Hidan gasped. I can't fucking die. Easy, Naruto replied. I simply reversed engineered the jutsu which granted your immortality. Not so tough now, are ya? In the Unification War, Naruto had came across a cult which worshipped Jashin. Like Hidan, their leader was considered to be immortal and was even worshipped as a living god. However, during a raid into one of their strongholds, Naruto found the scrolls detailing not only the jutsu used to make someone immortal, but also the workings of the Jashin ritual and curse jutsu. With that knowledge, Naruto was able to reverse engineer the mechanisms of the immortality jutsu. Afterward, the cult was slaughtered to the man. The leader of the Jashin cult was the last to die at Naruto's hands. You think you're the only Jashin follower I killed? Naruto taunted as he drew his sword. How else was I able to reverse the immortality jutsu? As Kakuzu watched helplessly, Naruto raised his sword. This is for Chiraku. So lie down and die, the Emperor said as he brought the blade down. Asuma watched as the man in black sliced through Hidan's neck, before flinging the blood off his blade and sheathing his katana. Upon hearing the audible click, a thin red line appeared around Hidan's throat. Then his head slid forward, falling to the ground and rolling to a stop at his savior's feet. Hidan was dead. The pain finally getting to him, Asuma mercifully passed out. Seeing that Asuma was out of the picture for the moment, Naruto turned to the bound Kakuzu. The bound ninja tried to break free of the chakra chains that bound him, but realized that they were draining his chakra at a rapid pace. One supposed immortal down, one to go, Naruto mused. You may kill me, but the others will track you down and kill you, Kakuzu sneered. They can try, but they will die as well, Naruto replied calmly as he analyzed his opponent. Through his fox eye, he saw Kakuzu's means of immortality, the four hearts. One more thing, Kakuzu, Naruto replied as he removed his face mask and hat, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Kakuzu's eyes went wide. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki, you. The last thing Kakuzu saw was a flash of yellow, then darkness. End flashback. Asuma was still out cold. I took Hidan and Kazuku's heads and collected their bounties. But before I could recover Chiraku's body, I received 3 more uninvited guests. Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akamaiki. From the look of things, both Ino and Choji have been promoted to Chunin since my exile, and they assumed that I was the one who had attacked their sensei. Not surprisingly, they attacked me. They've improved since I was banished, Ino especially. Looks like she's been training under Tsunade, as she now has that chakra-powered super strength. Funny. So do I. After several minutes of fighting, the trio tried to catch me in their famed formation, distract me with Akamaiki, then Nara will use his Kagemain to capture me and Yamanaka will incapacitate me with their mind transfer jutsu. Well, actually, I allowed them the first 2, but when Ino tried to use her family's signature jutsu, I gave them a shocker. I broke free from the Kagemain using a jutsu I leaned from General Kazama and performed a substitution with Choji. Ino's mind went into her partner's instead and I punted Choji into Ino's body. With both of them out for the count, I turned to Shikamaru. He tried the Kagemain again, but this time around, I blasted him with a new technique I developed. Deadly Tempest. I was inspired by Tamari and her Kamidachi attack, and after a couple of days, I developed 2 variants of it, wind and fire. The attack is basically chakra-powered winds with the force of a hurricane gale. The wind variant blasts the opponent with super-cooled air. And it did as it was advertised. Shikamaru was sent flying into his teammates, out cold. With those 3 nuisances out of the way, I retrieved Chiraku's body. Asuma had recovered by that time, but was in no shape to try and attack me. I left him there with his former students. Konohagakure, the following day. Inside a hospital room, a very pregnant Kurenai Sarutobi kept a silent vigil over her husband. Hidan had worked Asuma over pretty good with his ritual and curse jutsu. The Sarutobi clan head had multiple cuts and lacerations, some minor, others serious. He had lost quite a bit of blood on the way back to Konoha. Choji had carried him on his back and Ino fed him blood pills, and given the extent of his injuries, he would be on the inactive list for several months. But he would survive. You die on me, Asuma, and I will kick you for making me a widow and a single mother, Kurenai hissed. Inside the Hokage's office, a battered and bruised Shikamaru, Ino and Choji gave their report to Tsunade. Also present were the two senior advisors, Kaharu and Hanmura, and the Warhawk, Danzo. It was only after we had regained consciousness that we saw the bodies of the two Akatsuki, Shikamaru explained, holding an ice pack to his head. The bounty station verified them both as Hidan and Kazuku, both S-class missing ninja, both were members of the Akatsuki. And both were killed by the same man we fought, Ino seconded, also holding an ice pack to her face. Describe this man, Danzo commanded. Tall, maybe about 6 foot even, Choji said, holding his own ice pack to his nose. Dressed in black, Junin flak vest, pants and boots. He wore a Kage-style hat to cover his face. He was armed with a sword, but did not use it against us. We saw no Hittite identifying him as a missing ninja. Mercenary, perhaps. Danzo muttered. Someone who was able to kill 2 ninja who were deemed immortal is someone to be watched. There's something else, Shikamaru said. Sensei said that the man saved him from being killed by Hidan. I don't buy it, Tsunade said. Whoever this man is, we need to know if he is friend or foe. Bring him in for questioning. Any capable Chunin or Junin should be up to the task. Danzo bowed, albeit mockingly before he and the two advisors exited the office. Upon going his separate ways from the two advisors, Danzo summoned Sai. He had plans to make. Journal of the Emperor, Naruto Namikaze. Entry 4. Somehow, I know that beating down the Ino-Shika Cho trio would come and bite me on the following day, we held a mass funeral at the ruins of Fire Temple. Chiriku deserved better. He didn't deserve to die like a dog. The surviving monks would rebuild, but not before I promised them help in any way possible. The monks departed to a fallback spot, while I and my entourage returned to the temple. There, I found the Warhawk, the one who had orchestrated my banishment in the first place. He wasn't alone. 20 Root Anbu accompanied him. Made me glad that I knew Konoha law, which is why I gave the order not to kill, but rather maim. Had I ordered the elite guards to kill, then I would be in the bingo book. But I wasn't worried. If I was alone, then yeah, I would be worried. I think I should take this time out to tell you about my elite guards. It was Sanshi's idea to begin with. Even though I am a highly skilled warrior trained in the ways of the shinobi and samurai, even I need someone to protect me. Which is why Sanshi came up with the idea of having an elite group of bodyguards, both samurai and shinobi to watch my back. They all came from samurai and shinobi families, and are especially good at what they do. The elite guards are a motley bunch, but they look out for each other as well as guard me. The first member just so happens to be the youngest of the bunch. Sanshi's granddaughter, Sana. Like her grandfather, she was trained as a samurai. In the Unification War, she was a member of Yugito's Hellcats, and still wears the khaki flak vest with pride. I spar with her every once in a while whenever I can't fight her grandfather. The others tend to treat her like the little sister of the bunch. Hideo Kibagami was Eiji's nephew. His parents were killed in battle and he was raised by his foul-mouthed uncle and also taught the ways of the sword. From what I've seen, the Kibagami style is mostly quick draw. He was the oldest of the bunch, and formerly a member of Zabuza's demon squad. Every once in a while, I see him and Zabuza fight. Last time I checked, the matches are 5-4 in Zabuza's favor. Takuma Chiba is the resident taijutsu master of the group. I've seen the Chiba clan in action, facing down heavily armed ninja and samurai, and they would come out on top. That was one of the reasons why I had him mentor Udon. The others tend to poke fun at his nature, calling him a philosopher with his head in the clouds. But in the moment of truth, there was no one in battle more fierce than a Chiba at your back. Personally, I would like to see him fight either Choji or Rock Lee. The second oldest of the bunch was Ro Shinto. Both the Okajima and the Shinto ninja clans were natural rivals. Whenever they were not fighting together in the Unification Wars, they would occasionally try and one-up the other, with often hilarious results. While the Okajima specialized in assassination and stealth, the Shinto prefer to do their business up close and personal. He describes himself as a charismatic sociopath on the battlefield, but a gentleman off it. Hakuyuki Mamashi was chosen by me personally because of her abilities over ice and water. Thought to have been killed during the Wave mission years earlier, she was in fact alive alongside Zabuza. In the years following the mission into Wave, her abilities over water and ice had all but improved over time, making her even more deadly. Combine that with her taijutsu training from one of the mist refugees, she was very deadly as an assassin. She was also my closet friend, given the life lessons I picked up from her back in Wave. Last was the resident medic nin of the group, Akemi Shiratori. The Shiratori and Yamada clans were close allies. When it was clear that Akemi had the potential of becoming a medic nin, Akemi's parents sent her to train under Kokura personally. Even though she did not have the ability to control fire, Akemi made up for it by being a master medic. Back to the matter at hand. Flashback. Ruins of Fire Temple, nighttime. Naruto watched silently as the 20-root Anbu surrounded him and his escort. After ordering Team Misfit to back up Ryuji, he gave a silent command to his elite guard. The 6 shinobi and samurai spread out, ready to protect their emperor. The emperor's eyes narrowed as he saw the old warhawk and Sai approach him. In this case, he was thankful that he still had on the Kage-style hat and face mask which concealed his identity. But he had changed out of his flak vest and into his normal vest and longcoat. Danzo stopped when he was double arm's length, Sai at his side. Naruto looked at the warhawk, then at the 20 root that surrounded him and his escort. 20 ninja against myself and my escort. Hardly fair, old man. It shouldn't be fair, Danzo replied. You killed 2 S-class criminals and beaten down 3 Chunin-level ninja. I'm simply not taking any chances. In my defense, the 3 ninja attacked me first. My target was the 2 Akatsuki. The Konoha ninja were simply in my way. You didn't come up here for a friendly chat. State your business. Danzo was to the point. You are to surrender at once. By order of the Godime Hokage and the Konoha Council, you are summoned to Konoha for questioning. My root are here just to make sure that you make the right choice. Of course, it would be such a shame for a person of your potential to be locked away. I can use someone like you en route. I can protect you from that drunk of a Hokage and the rest of the clans. Join me, and I will make you my right-hand man. When the time comes for me to usurp the position of Hokage, I will make Konoha a village to be feared. Join your side and become a tool like the rest of your root. All ninjas are tools. Ninjas are not tools of anyone, Naruto replied. As for your answer, the answer is no. Pity, Danzo replied. Then you leave me no choice. Kill his escort and seize him. As the root moved in, Naruto merely smiled. You really think your Anbu can stand a chance against my guards? You really need to get out more. End flashback. We fought on the grounds of the destroyed temple. 20 against 7 seemed like an unfair fight. Only difference was the people of the West lived and breathed warfare. Danzo was very surprised when we tore through his route with little effort. I took down 10 of them before turning to Danzo and Sai. The ink user found out the hard way that his ink attacks were ineffective against tsunami force winds. Once Sai was taken care of, I turned to Danzo. The fox eye immediately identified the Uchiha's Sharingan. Unlike Hitaki, he had several implanted, one in his left eye and the other in his hidden arm. I gotta thank Katami when I return. The fox eye did as it was advertised. Danzo's Sharingans proved to be ineffective against my own bloodline when he tried to use it against me. That didn't make him any less dangerous. I ended up fighting in a sword fight. The old man was good, I hate to admit. But he was pretty complacent in his superiority. But in the end, his sword was broken in two, and he was staring down at the pointy end of my blade. I think he was honestly shocked to see that his best ninja were defeated. Killing him would only make things worse, so I spared his life. Danzo soon joined his route in unconsciousness. By the time he and his group recover, I was be long gone. Entry 5. Visited Yukie in Spring Country. Actually, she invited me to the premiere of her newest movie, which she had shot back west. Afterward, she invited me and the guards to her estate in the spring capital. There, I entertained the elite guard with stories of my days as a Konoha genin, particularly the mission into spring, then known as snow. Now that Yukie's a daimyo, she managed to get a small ninja village established. She took me there one time. The ninja were mostly refugees from Mist and from other villages that had fallen off the map. I'd say in a few years the Hidden Ice Village will be a force to be reckoned with. I also received word from the spring branch of the Pakara merchant house that the original Ino Shika Cho trio, consisting of Inoichi Yamanaka, Shikaku Nara and Chusa Akamaiki, were tailing me. This I already knew, since I saw them at the premiere. Chusa pretty much sticks out like a sore thumb, and if he was there, then his two buddies were not far behind. The original Ino Shika Cho were pretty famous during the days of the last Shinobi War. Not as famous as my father, but still famous. Call it hubris, but I wanted to see just how good they really were. Fortunately for them, they decided to come to me. It was in the evening when I was training in the woods surrounding Yukie's estate when they showed up. Flashback. Spring Country. Clad in his usual black flak vest, pants and boots, his face still concealed by the Kage-style hat and face mask, Naruto was performing his evening kata, knowing full well that he was being watched. Yukie was also present, chatting with Sana and Haku while the other four elite guards stood around, chatting amongst one another. Hiding in the shadows, trying to figure me out isn't going to get you nowhere, Naruto called out in a loud voice as he concluded his kata. Step into the clearing. As the elite guards drew their weapons, Shikaku Nara, Inoichi Yamanaka and Chusa Akamaiki emerged from the forests. The elite guards were ready to attack, but a signal from Naruto stayed their hand. Shikaku Nara, Inoichi Yamanaka, Chusa Akamaiki, Konoha's infamous Ino Shika Cho trio, Naruto drawled. Yukie's eyes narrowed. Konoha ninja, here. They're here for me, Naruto replied casually. Isn't that right? That's right, Chusa said. Can't help that I'm popular these days. I'm guessing that there's an ulterior motive you three decide to chase me down, aside the fact that it was on the orders of your Hokage. Inoichi nodded. You did attack our children. So yes, it's a parent thing. You must have parents, so you must understand the bond between a father and their child. I don't, Naruto replied flatly. My parents died on the day I was born, my mother in childbirth, and my father in battle. The father figure I had died in a sneak attack when I was 12. Enough talk. You came for me, so here I am. You don't have to worry about my guards interfering in our little dance. Pretty confident, are ya? Chusa said as he and his teammates surrounded Naruto. It comes with experience and skill, Naruto replied. I've always wanted to see how the famed Ino Shika Cho trio can fight. I hope you don't disappoint me. End flashback. The original Ino Shika Cho proved to a bit tougher than the newer version. But in the end, they too were defeated. After they regained consciousness, Yukie chewed them out before sending them back to the border under guard. So far, it's Konoha, 0, yours truly, 3. Entry 6. The elite guards has just went up from 6 to 8. The two newest members just so happens to be a founding member of the Akatsuki and his lover, who was the former leader of a Magaker. How did that happen, you ask? Well, as it turned out, my spy network back east had caught wind of a major defection from within their ranks. Male and female, mid to late 20s, the male an expert in gravity and water jutsu, the female a master of paper-style ninjutsu. Yugito and B all voiced their opinions about me tracking down the heads of an organization consisting of S-class ninja. And believe me, I had my own concerns as well, but having two S-ranked people who know the organization inside and out could prove to be useful. I planned on dealing with the Akatsuki later on, since they are a credible threat, and the Akatsuki probably has it in for me for killing two of their members. Well, I'm gonna piss them off even further by rescuing two more. With Katami as backup, I used the Demon's Gate Jutsu and came across their last known location, Forest Country. Our timing could not have been more perfect, as the two ninja in question were being chased down by a quintet calling themselves the Five Paths of Pain. And from the look of things, these five were very, very deadly. Using my expertise as a tactician, I quickly came up with a plan. Katami created 200 shadow clones of Hidan to keep the quintet occupied, while Katami and I went after the two ninja. Both were in bad shape, as the male ninja's final attack had drained the last of his chakra. And it was a pretty nasty gravity-based jutsu as well. The Shinra Tessei. While the five Akatsuki were stunned from the attack, I made my move. As the Five Paths of Pain were distracted by Katami's clones, Katami and I grabbed the two injured ninja. The man started to sputter something until I stopped him with just 8 words. Come with us if you want to live. By the time Katami and I returned to the Demon's Gate, the Five Paths of Pain were still fighting the Hidan clones. When we were safely back west, the clones dispersed, leaving Pain to figure out what the hell just happened. Once we were back home, I had both of them treated for their injuries, while at the same time, got their names. The brunette was Konan, and her companion was Yahiko. Yahiko Uzumaki. And here, I thought I was the last Uzumaki. But it makes me glad that I have surviving clan members to call family. I then found out the reason why they were on the lam from the Akatsuki. Then again, Yahiko was surprised to find out that my mother was the former ruler of Whirlpool. Originally, they were called the AIM orphans, Yahiko, Konan and another named Nagato. Much to my surprise, they were once students of Jiraiya when they were younger. Yahiko had dreamed of bringing about peace to the shinobi world, and thus created Akatsuki. But over time, the organization had lost sight of their goals, and became corrupt. Yahiko was removed as leader in favor of Nagato. As expected, things got worse. Nagato was the one controlling the Five Paths of Pain, a deadly jutsu which allows Nagato to control 5 bodies separately via chakra rods in his body via the rods in their bodies at the same time. The studs were placed inside 5 corpses, reanimating them. The 5 paths were Animal Path, Human Path, Naraka Path, Asura Path, and Preta Path. Because of Yahiko's talent for gravity jutsu, he would have been number 6, the Diva Path. Konan and Yahiko soon discovered that Nagato was just a puppet. The real head of the Akatsuki was Madara Uchiha. Katami recognized the name, as did I. He was responsible for the events which shaped my life. What Yahiko told me was even more disturbing. Madara desired the power of the tailed beasts, which explained why Itachi and Kisame had chased me. Katami had filled me in on the backstory. The 9 Biju were originally the 10-tailed beast. Its Jinchuriki was the 6-path sage. Fearing that the 10 tails would be released upon his death, the 6-path sage came up with a backup plan. He split the 10 tails into the 9-tailed beasts and sealed the 10 tails body in a stone prison, creating the moon. Yahiko and Konan were surprised that Katami knew about that little piece of information. They were pretty much shocked when they found out that Katami herself was the 9 tails in human form, and that the 2 tails and 8 tails were here. Then they laid out the plan which caused them to flee the Akatsuki. Madara Uchiha's Eye of the Moon plan. The plan was simple. It was a plan for total world domination. It also explained Madara's interest in the tailed beasts. The Akatsuki would track down and retrieve the Jinchuriki and use a jutsu to remove the tailed beast from within their bodies, killing the host in the process. So far, they did this to Yagura, meaning that Mei didn't kill him, just simply took control of the mist before it could erupt into civil war. Once Madara had the power of the tailed beasts in his possession, he would fuse them back to their original form, and become the Jinchuriki to the 10 tails. He would then use his eternal Magankyu Sharingan, powered by the 10 tails, to project an infant Tsukiyomi onto the moon in order to control any and everyone. And here, I thought Sasuke was bad. Madara's much worse. The following day, I held an emergency meeting of the council. Temari had sat in. Terumi was out on retreat in the mountains. I invited Yahiko and Konan to the session and they told everything to the council. Suffice to say, the council was troubled. Only 5 Jinchuriki were still left. And you can bet your last Ryo that the Akatsuki will be combing the east for them. Gaara's well guarded for the time being, so the other 4 are the problem. I then proposed a strategy. Using the spy network back east, I find the Jinchuriki and offer them asylum here. The motion was passed. As for Konan and Yahiko, I had them placed on probation until the Akatsuki was destroyed. At least Yahiko and Konan understood the severity of the situation. As they were former members of the Akatsuki, they had to earn their trust. I received an unexpected guest in my empire today. Kazuma appeared before me while I was going through some paperwork and gave me the news. There was a sound envoy on their way to the Imperial complex, a group of 20 ninja led by Kabuto. Not one to take any chances, I had Zabuza's Demon Brigade and Yugito's Hellcats on standby just in case things got a bit nasty. Looks like Orochimaru is looking for an alliance, as well as candidates for new bodies, since Sasuke is off limits. I had Kabuto's escort wait outside the throne room, while I held an audience with Kabuto. Flashback. House of Sovereigns, throne room. Seated on his throne, Naruto eyed the white-haired man with a combination of disdain and suspicion. Katami was not there, as he did not want her to give away any suspicion as to her true identity. The Kage-style hat was on his head, effectively hiding his face. Not to take any chances, his face was concealed by his mask. Kabuto Yakushi took a knee, head bowed. Your Imperial Majesty, he began, may your reign be a long and prosperous one. My name is Kabuto Yakushi. I represent Odogakure, the village hidden in the sound. I bring greetings from my master, Lord Orochimaru. Using his chakra to disguise his voice, think Naruto speaking in Wesker's voice, Naruto responded. So what business does your master want with me? Lord Orochimaru has been monitoring the events that have transpired here in the West with great interest, Kabuto said. He is especially impressed that you have united the lands in so little time. He has sent me here to discuss terms of an alliance between your empire and the Sound. Naruto leaned back on his throne. Tell me, Yakushi, what would I gain should I ally myself to the Sound? You would have the backing of one of the most powerful ninja in the East, Kabuto said. Despite our small numbers, you would mostly benefit from Lord Orochimaru's guidance. In other words, take over my body since Sasuke is off limits, and use my army to invade Konoha, Naruto thought darkly. The young emperor made it look like he was in deep thought. I am sorry, but a military alliance is not in the empire's best interest. You misunderstood me, your majesty. Kabuto began, but was cut off. Oh, don't be coy, Yakushi, Naruto replied. Do you really think that you are the first from the east to ask for an alliance? First it was the rock, then it was the cloud, you make number 3. The people has seen war since the era of the 6 paths. Unlike the people of the east, they have not known a lasting peace. I saw the lawlessness of the lands and I gave them the peace they desired. I am merely a servant of the people and even an emperor must listen to the will of the people. I am truly sorry that you have come this far, but tell your Lord Orochimaru that my answer is no. Kabuto slowly nodded. I see. In any case, Lord Orochimaru will be disappointed that you will not agree to the alliance. I thank you for your time, Your Majesty. With a wave of his hand, Naruto excused Kabuto. As soon as Kabuto was out of the room, General Kazuma of the Shadow Company emerged from, quite literally, the shadows. That went well, Kazuma said. Even better than expected. Have your men tail them, Naruto replied, removing his mask and returning to his normal voice. Make sure that they are on the first boat out of Kimen. I don't trust him, or the snake. Why? What did Orochimaru did to you? Orochimaru killed my mentor, and grandfather to Maru Sarutobi, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Naruto replied as he rose from his throne. Between the snake and Konoha. I hate Orochimaru more. See to your orders, Kazuma. Kazuma bowed. Right away, my lord. End flashback. I was tempted, honestly tempted to kill Kabuto and declare war on Orochimaru. But I held back. Killing Orochimaru would bring complications that would haunt me later on. Kazuma would later report that Kabuto and his sound envoy had returned back east without incident. Entry 9. Takuma was invited to a martial arts tournament in T country. So the rest of the elite guards and yours truly went down to T to support him. Actually, I had to meet up with one of my informants who had information on Mist Country's Jinchuriki, the renegade ninja Utakata. Plus, Mei was going to be there, so I had to talk to her about giving Utakata a pardon for going rogue. With the exception of Mei and Gaara, most people here don't know that I am the Emperor of the West. All they knew about the elite guards is that they fought alongside the Emperor, and one of them would be competing in the tournament. I like playing the enigma. It makes it even more sweeter when those who ridiculed and hated me find out what I've become. Then again, there's Iowa and the fact that they hate my father's guts to the point that they would try and go to war against my home. Maybe if I crush the strongest village in the shinobi lands, then that would make the others fall into line. Nah, I want to be remembered for bringing about an everlasting peace, not for starting a shinobi war. If Iowa does want a piece of the son of the Yondaime, I'd be more than happy to give it to them, on the receiving end of my sword. Sorry, where was I? So I invited Mei to the Pakara merchant house in T country to discuss Utakata. When Mei asked me why, I simply told her the truth. The Akatsuki are looking for them, seeking the power of the tailed beasts. My plan is to simply intercept them to protect them and to give them a home, a place where they can belong, to live their lives in peace. That pretty much cinched it for Mei, so she issued a pardon for Utakata on the spot. The tournament lasted 3 days. Takuma Chiba was pretty much the talk of the entire tournament. Before it began, Takuma declared that he was doing this in honor of his emperor. I simply told him, do it for yourself, show the East what the Chiba clan can do. At least he's humble and modest to a fault. On the first day of the tournament, I noticed someone in the audience watching me. It was Tenten. Who else would wear her hair like that? From the look of things, she was promoted to Junin. Excusing myself from the guards, I decided to take care of this personally. I left the arena, knowing full well that Tenten would soon follow. Flashback. Longcoat floating in the wind, Naruto made sure his mask was secured on his face, the Kage-style hat in place before retrieving a scroll from his coat. Unrolling it and smearing blood on it, the scroll activated, and his sword emerged from the parchment. Naruto picked up the sword by its scabbard, relishing in the weight of the weapon. The weapon was, according to Sanshi, an O-katana. The O-katana is the older version of the standard katana, designed for somewhat taller samurai so they can use their height to their advantage. Naruto had found the weapon while returning from a successful campaign. While returning to Kimen City, Naruto was traveling through the Laja Mountains, having cinched the northern half's loyalty when he came across a hidden cave. That was where he had found the sword, along with 300 chests, each filled with golden bricks. The sword was definitely something that caught Naruto's eye. Later, Naruto would swear that he was drawn to the sword. He retrieved it and had his army to retrieve the gold, which would later be used to finance his southern campaign, and to rebuild the war-torn continents once the war was over. Some he gave to his soldiers and clan heads as bonuses and hazard pay, most of it went into the imperial treasury, and Naruto kept the rest. The sword, however, was something that Sanshi took an interest in. It had belonged to a powerful warrior, who had forged the weapon from metal retrieved from a falling meteor, the blade itself being razor-sharp and indestructible. That was when Sanshi had taken Naruto on as his apprentice in the samurai arts. The sword, as Naruto had found out, also had the ability to split into twin swords, making it an even more deadlier weapon in his hands. Naruto sensed movement from behind him, and smiled. Tenten has arrived. Either you're pretty brave, or pretty reckless to come alone, Naruto said as he turned around, facing his newest opponent. I could say the same for you, Tenten replied, sword drawn. You're pretty infamous in Konoha. So I've heard. You're the fourth encounter I've had with the leaf, Naruto replied, eyeing the Junin vest she wore underneath. She's in her allied shinobi forces uniform rather than her Shippuden outfit. He removed his longcoat and placed it to the side before drawing his sword and rested the scabbard alongside a tree. Tenten eyed the sword. Now that is a very nice sword. You any good with it? Naruto smiled. I was trained in both the samurai arts and in kenjutsu. So yeah, I'm good with the sword. You may be good, but I'm the best when it comes to weapons, Tenten said as she shifted into her stance. Okay, then, Naruto replied as he went into a very basic kendo stance. Let's dance. End flashback. Tenten improved. A lot, I must admit. Too bad I was kinda toying with her for most of the battle. So I was feeling a bit sadistic and I slapped her repeatedly with the flat of the blade, hoping to get a reaction from her. It worked. She got pissed off enough to try the same trick she did with Tamari. Can you say, deja vu? I think Tamari would be laughing her off when she found out that I blasted Tenten with Deadly Tempest. But I was at least nice enough to drop Tenten off at the local hospital instead of leaving her there in the forest. Entry 10. Rock Lee and Neji Hyuga showed up the following day. Both had been promoted to Junin, it seems. While Neji looked after Tenten, it was up to old Bushy Brows to uphold the honor of Team Guy. In the meantime, Takuma had breezed through the tournament. The only opponent that gave him a problem was the taijutsu expert from Iowa. Needless to say, Chiba's opponent was very pissed when he lost. So much so that he tried to ambush Takuma with myself and the other elite guards present after the second day. No, we didn't kill them, just sent them to the hospital with a wide assortment of broken bones and cuts, just to show that we were the wrong people to pick a fight with. It was after the second day of the tournament that Rock Lee showed up. Flashback. Tea Country, evening. The elite guards were at the local restaurant while Naruto decided to take a walk along a grove. The Emperor was dressed down in his standard uniform that he wore during the Unification Wars, the same uniform that he had on when he killed Hidan and Kazuku, but with one major difference. Rather than the Kage-style hat, he switched to a bandana. The face mask remained on his face. Naruto knew that Rock Lee was tailing him. That was a given, but he had given him the slip when he entered the grove, so now the roles were reversed. Naruto was tracking him. Hey, looks like Mr. Youthful is now a Junin as well, Naruto thought as he noticed the Junin vest on Rock. Still can do better than that crappy spandex. Deciding that this little game has gone on long enough, Naruto decided to confront his former comrade. Rock Lee, 1/3 of Team Guy. Second green beast of Konoha. It's a honor. Rock Lee spun around, and saw Naruto leaning up against a tree, hands in his pockets, shoulders slumped. From the look of things, he was alone. And you've attacked several teammates and comrades from the Leaf. That is most unyouthful. In my defense, they initiated combat when they challenged me, Naruto replied, standing straight up. I was merely defending myself. You've been making a name for yourself, Rock Lee said, slowly sizing up his opponent. Despite all of that, you did save Captain Sarutobi. I'll take that into consideration when I take you in. You can try, Naruto replied. But, it won't be that easy for you. I hear you're a genius in taijutsu. I'm an expert in the style myself. He shifted into his stance, think Kazuya's fighting stance. So come on, Green Beast. Show me your stuff. That cinched it for Rock Lee. Yosh, you are indeed a worthy opponent. He went into his Guken stance. This will be my most youthful performance yet. I wouldn't hold my breath on that, Naruto thought darkly. End flashback. I took bushy brows to the brink in our little battle. He ended up opening 3 lotus gates and removing his weights. I decided to unleash a brand new taijutsu technique that I've been working on. The Shadow Dancer. Similar to my classic Uzumaki formation and combo, only difference was instead of using my clones to attack, I used chakra-powered speed and power to smack Lee repeatedly. Katami was right about thing. You can't dodge what you can't see. With the defeat of both Tenten and Rock Lee, it was only a matter of time before Neji would appear. And given the fact that the pompous little shit threatened me with death should I return, I had a serious bone to pick with him. Entry 11. Takuma had won the tournament. Big surprise. At least the others were entertained, not to mention they won a pile of Ryo for betting on Chiba. As Takuma fought, I felt the killer intent radiating in my direction. At the opposite end of the stadium, was Neji himself. His Byakugan was activated, and he was glaring at me. Sorry, Hyuga, but you won't see any red chakra in me. I freed Katami, but no one from Konoha doesn't know about that little tidbit just yet. Following the ceremony in which Takuma was crowned, Neji made his move. He called me out on the stadium's Letday. Snafu's notes. The Letday is a training platform. The best example of this is from Mortal Kombat, Deadly Alliance intro in which Shang Tsung and Quan Kai double-team Liu Kang. Flashback. Neji Hyuga stared impassively at the disguised Naruto. The same man that had killed to S-ranked criminals belonging to the most infamous organization of missing ninja, we well as bested several clan heads and high-ranking Chunin and Junin, his teammates included. It was while he was at the hospital looking after Tenten that Rock Lee was brought in. He had fought the man in black and had lost. That, to Neji, was impossible. Rock Lee was the same as him, a prodigy. Despite losing to the man in black, Rock Lee was in good spirits. He may had lost the battle, but the man in black had earned his respect. It was during the awards ceremony that Neji had crashed the ceremony, issuing his challenge to the Emperor. You deserve praise for making it this far, Neji began. But your luck ends here. As it is fate for me to be a member of the branch family of the Hyuga, fate has deemed me as the winner. I will defeat you and bring you back to Konoha. Naruto frowned. Neji had never gotten over that crap about fate. Then again, he said the same thing when he was banished. I never got this far by living my life bound to fate. Fate and honor are designed for one thing. They are designed by weak people to keep the strong in line. There is no such thing as fate. There is only choice. The choice to do what is right. The choice to make your own destiny. Neji's eyes were alight with anger as he activated his Byakugan. You lie. No one can change their fate. There was one who said the same thing, but he turned out to be a demon in disguise. You will see soon enough. I will show you why I am considered the best in the Hyuga clan. Oh, that's it, Naruto thought. If the beatdown I gave him back during the Chunin exams was bad, I'm gonna do worse here. Sighing, the former Konoha ninja cracked his knuckles. At first, I was just going to fight you. Now, I'm gonna kick your. To his elite guards and the judges, he barked out, leave us. He is mine. As the elite guards and the judges piled off the leadai, bets were being taken. Neji was well known in the East for his skills in taijutsu, but he had never faced off against a revamped Naruto. This time, his chakra system wasn't messed up like last time. He was going to rip Neji a new one. End flashback. Neji knew only one taijutsu style. I know two. And since the shadow dancer technique was so nice, I did it twice. When Neji attempted the 64 palms, I let loose with the shadow dancer. And just to be a total, each time I hit him, I struck his chakra points. Yeah, I admit it. I was a total jerkass when we fought. I had seen the Jukin in action many times back in Konoha. When I was chased by the villagers, I was on the receiving end of it by some unruly Hyuga asshole who had too much to drink and wanted to take it out on the Kyubi brat. As he slipped into unconsciousness, I left him with a parting shot. You claim to be the best, but you fell like the rest. Entry 12. No one from Konoha attacking me today. Good thing too. Something else did happen, though, despite me being on the tail end of this inspection tour. I heard reports of Iwa having not one, but two Jinchuriki, both former Iwa ninja who had resigned and decided to wander. It took me a while, but my spy network came through. The ninja in question were Roshi and Han, Jinchuriki to the four-tailed monkey and five-tailed dolphin horse respectively. The bad news was that they were both being pursued by the Akatsuki. But even bad news can be a blessing in disguise. Since I was already on the Akatsuki's radar by eliminating both Hidan and Kazuku, I tracked both of them down, as they were injured from their battle with Deidara and another member, some guy calling himself Toby, and retrieved them both. An impressive feat, seeing as how I did it all alone. I guess it helped that I ambushed the both of them with a senjutsu-powered deadly tempest, then I used a shadow clone to retrieve the two men. Iwa was out of the question, since Oniki would more than likely force them back into service, so I returned to T Country, where I used the Demon's Gate Jutsu to return back to the west. At least the inspection tour was over. There, Han and Roshi had regained consciousness inside the guest quarters of the Imperial Palace. Yugito and B were there to greet them when they woke up. After making sure that they were fed, I summoned them to the House of Sovereigns. Flashback. House of Sovereigns, Imperial Complex. Rather than meet the two Jinchuriki inside his throne room, Naruto had them led to his office, where he was just finishing up the pile of paperwork detailing the condition of his empire. Katami was with him. The humanized form of the Nine Tails was scanning a document when Yugito led Roshi and Han inside the office. Almost immediately, Yanbi and Gobi went nuts. Katami saw the looks on their faces and knew what that meant. Roshi, former ninja of Iwagakure no Sato, Jinchuriki of Yanbi, the four-tailed monkey. Han, also a former ninja of the same village, Jinchuriki of Gobi, the five-tailed dolphin horse. And you're the Nine Tails, Roshi guessed. Katami smiled. How insightful of you. Yes, I am Kyubi no Yoko, but my human name is Katami Akashiya. Han, in the meantime, was looking at Naruto with an odd look in his eyes. Has anyone ever told you? Naruto cut him off. That I look a lot like Minato Namikaze. I get that a lot, seeing as how he was my father. Han narrowed his eyes. Didn't know he had a kid. You know he's well hated in Iwa. For his actions in the last Shinobi War, I know, Naruto replied. The only Konoha ninja in the bingo book with a flee on-site order. I heard rumors that a kid unified the lands here, Roshi said. Never thought it would be Minato's son. That would make you the Emperor of the West. It was you that saved the both of us. Naruto nodded. Yes, on all counts. Take a seat. I'll tell you the entire story of how I ended up here. It took Naruto 10 minutes, but he laid it all down. From his childhood to being banished in the aftermath of the Sasuke retrieval mission to uniting the country under his rule. Even Roshi and Han were shocked to find out that he was banished not only for being the container of the Nine Tails, but for simply doing his job. The kid is telling the truth, Gobi concurred. As crazy as this sounds, he's telling the truth. He is not lying, Yanbi seconded. Han leaned back in his seat. Attacking a child for something not in his control. Such a disgrace. Banished for doing your job. If anything, the Uchiha should have been the one banished. Roshi nodded. Indeed. And the council's been blocking your progress despite your devotion to the leaf. Naruto nodded. He then changed the subject. Have you ever heard of the Akatsuki? The two men nodded. The Akatsuki are gathering the Jinchuriki for something big, Naruto explained. My spies have been sending me reports about their motives. Does the name Madara Uchiha ring a bell? Both men nodded. Naruto explained that Madara was the mastermind behind Akatsuki, and that he wanted the power of the tailed beasts for his Eye of the Moon scheme, of which Naruto had explained to both men. So far, Naruto had remained one step ahead of the organization of S-ranked missing ninja. His interference in their attempts to capture Roshi and Han was another wrench tossed in the gears. So you saved us from the Akatsuki? Roshi asked. Yup. Naruto nodded. In this case, the Jinchuriki should be united against the Akatsuki. They sent Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki to capture me when I was younger. They both failed. I rescued Yugito from them and offered B and his brother sanctuary within the empire. The people know about my past and do not see me as a demon or a monster. They even seen Katami in her true form and did not run away. What are you offering? Han asked. Sanctuary within the empire, Naruto said. Protection from the Akatsuki and all your enemies. You can settle anywhere you wish. Even become a leader of a village. But the time will come where we must take a stand against the Akatsuki. And what do you want in return? Han asked. Your loyalty. That's all I ask. If you wish to return back east, then I will not stop you. What do you say? Seeing as how they had nothing left for them back east, they chose to stay. Okay, Lord Namikaze, Roshi said. I accept your offer. I would like to wander around a bit, get my bearings straight. Naruto nodded. Of course. He then turned to Han. What about you? I'm more at home in the mountains, Han replied. There's several mountain villages in the Laja Mountains north of here, Naruto explained. Daimyo Toto said she needed some help in one of the villages. Said that their village elder had passed away and they need a new leader. Are you up to the task, Han? Han nodded. Naruto smiled. Good. Welcome to the Western Empire. End flashback. Entry 13. Han and Roshi fit in pretty well. Well, actually, Roshi has taken to wander in the southern region, hanging around in either South Ichiyama or Tears Point, while Han made his home in the mountain town of Yuto. When I visited Daimyo Toto, she was happy to say that Han had taken his role as protector very well. Of course, I had to see for myself, but after making a trip to the village, I saw it for myself. Roshi had told me that Han had a chip on his shoulder the size of the Hokage monument over how he was treated. Can't say I really blame him, since it was the same with me back in Konoha. I can honestly say that Han had found the peace he had long sought. Even Roshi had to agree when he came to visit his partner. The kids like him, even calling him the giant, as it was clear that he was the tallest man in the village, if not the entire empire. I could have sworn that one of the ladies was making eyes at him. Oh well, not my business to pry into other people's affairs. As long as they're happy, then I know I did a good job. In the meantime, I think it would be best that I would hang around here for a while. Let things die down. Maybe Konoha would forget about me. Then again, Konoha never let certain things go. I can expect another run-in with my past soon enough. Entry 14. Today, I stuck it to the Akatsuki yet again. I found out that 2 teams of the Akatsuki were looking for Utakata. I met the guy back when I was younger, so I knew what he looked like, as well as how he fought. As for the teams of Akatsuki, they were Itachi and his partner in the 5 Paths of Pain. Katami used a shadow clone and placed it under a henge to make it look like Utakata and sent it to distract Pain, while 3 of the elite guards, Katami and I went after the real one. Utakata was currently engaged in combat with Itachi and Kisame. We simply waited until Itachi and his partner had beaten down Utakata before we made our move. Flashback. Near the lightning border. Fire release. Deadly tempest. Itachi and Kisame leapt back from the deadly blast of superheated air, which had reduced several trees to instant ash. The unconscious Utakata slung over the traitorous Uchiha's shoulder. In an instant, Kisame had Samahata out, ready to shred any and everything. Since Naruto didn't had time to change out of his usual attire, i.e., vest, longcoat, pants and boots, he only had on the black hat. This time, he went without his face mask. The Emperor had his sword drawn. You have my thanks. Utakata is pretty hard to find, he said, looking at Itachi. But this is where I come in. Utakata is coming with me. Drop the Jinchuriki and step back. The Akatsuki has been looking for him for quite some time, Itachi replied. This has nothing to do with you. Leave. Can't do that, Itachi Uchiha. Drop the Jinchuriki or there will be trouble. At that, Kisame attacked. Holding the bandaged sword high, he charged. Imagine the shark man's shock when Naruto merely knocked Samahata out of his hands with his okatana, right before kicking it into a tree. After decking the renegade mist swordsman, he turned to Itachi. Now that your partner is out of the way. Itachi cut him off by saying one word. Tsukiyomi. He deadpanned, his Sharingan morphing into the Magankyu as he stared right into Naruto's eyes. If anything, Naruto's golden eyes showed amusement. Itachi was surprised to see that his technique didn't work. Meanwhile, Kisame had retrieved Samahata and was back at Itachi's side. Even he was shocked to see that the Magankyu was ineffective. Nice try, Uchiha, Naruto remarked dryly. Your Mangenkyu is no match for my bloodline, if I can be so modest. Not only it increases the power of my jutsu and seals to rival the power of the legendary sages, it also makes me immune from all forms of genjutsu, including your dreaded Tsukiyomi. His grip on his sword tightened. This can end in two ways. And in both of them, the Rokubi Jinchuriki comes with me. You make it sound like we have no choice, the fallen Uchiha replied. You don't, Naruto said as he prepared for battle. It's my way, or, screw it, it's my way. End flashback. It was a 2-on-1 match between yours truly and the two Akatsuki. Katami and the elite guard had retrieved Utakata and his student, a woman named Hotaru who had came across the battle. Anyone would have been crazy to take on two S-class missing ninja by themselves, but then again, I'm not your average warrior. Kisame was easy to dispatch. Oh, did I forgot to mention that my sword was indestructible, and almost hacked Samahata into pieces. That forced the sword to absorb Kisami's chakra, which drained him to the point where I could easily drop him. Then I fought Itachi. Hard to believe that he murdered his clan just to test his skills. No wonder Sasuke was so screwed in the head. Since his Sharingan proved to be ineffective against me, Itachi went for his Anbu-issued katana. Now this was starting to get very interesting. I guess I should mention that my sword has a real interesting technique, it can split in two. The look on Itachi's face was priceless. After 5 minutes of swordplay, Itachi unleashed Amaterasu. The black flames did a pretty damn good job of scorching the trees, as well as hiding my Hiroshin. I ended the battle by wrapping Itachi up with chakra chains. Sheathing my sword, I saw that the elite guards had left the scene with my prize. Turning to Itachi, I left him with a parting shot. Your life is yours still, Itachi Uchiha. But the next time we meet, you will die. As I turned from the two Akatsuki, I stopped and turned around. Hiding in the brush were 3 ninja. 2 were living hives while the other had chakra which reminded me of old man Sarutobi. Asuma Sarutobi and the Aburame, Shibi and Shino. I looked dead at Asuma and wondered if I should pick a fight with the old man's son and the 2 Aburame. I decided against it and left the scene, leaving 2 unconscious Akatsuki and 3 bewildered Konoha ninja. The clone that Katami had used to distract the 5 paths of pain vanished, its job done. Back west, Utakata regained consciousness the following day. There, I told him everything, about the Akatsuki's motives and my own plans in dealing with them. Utakata was surprised, who wasn't, when he found out that I was now the Emperor, but he was no fool. A chance of a fresh start with his student was too much to pass up. He agreed to my offer of sanctuary within the empire. Konohagakure no Sato, the following day. Upon their return to the village, Asuma Sarutobi, along with Shibi and Shino Aburame headed straight to the Hokage Tower to deliver their report. Asuma had been released from the hospital the previous week, and was assigned patrol duty so he could get back into the niche of things. Instead, he and the two Aburame stumbled upon Itachi and Kisame near the lightning border and witnessed a confrontation with the man in black over Utakata. Only the shinobi half of the Konoha council was present, as Tsunade had ordered the civilian half to leave, as she was getting tired of their rampant stupidity, especially from Asuna Haruno. The civilian council wanted to place Jiraiya inside the bingo book as an S-ranked missing ninja, but Tsunade had refused. When they did it regardless, placing the Toad Sage as an S-ranked criminal with a retrieve on-site order, the fire daimyo was furious. Tsunade had suspended the civilian side of the council for a month without pay, while the Fire Lord reduced Konoha's military aid by half and sent their B and A ranked assignments to Wind Country for the next year. Jiraiya was no traitor, as the Toad Sage was in contact with the fire daimyo himself, and was granted immunity after leaving Konoha. Suffice to say, Jiraiya was taken out of the bingo book almost immediately. Even Danzo was against the council's move, which was surprising to most people. After all, Jiraiya was more useful alive instead of dead. Tsunade and the shinobi half of the council listened to the report with great interest of the confrontation with the man in black in the Akatsuki. Also present was Sasuke Uchiha, recently promoted to Junin. It was through his hard work, not because of his name, that Tsunade finally relented and allowed him to take the Junin exams. But Sasuke knew that Tsunade despised him for his role, which led to Naruto being banished. Sasuke was also interested in the man in black. He has, after all, came out victorious against the best Konoha had to offer. Now, he fought his brother and his partner and had soundly defeated them in battle. So it's true, Tsunade said. The Akatsuki are gathering the Jinchuriki. She only hoped that Naruto was safe. Jiraiya was no help, since he has deprived the Leaf his spy network. That can prove to be a problem for the Akatsuki, Shikaku Nara pointed out. Yugito ni, the container for the two tails, has disappeared following Uzumaki's banishment. And just recently, Han and Roshi have also vanished. The Akatsuki did not intercept them. If anything, I'm willing to bet that the man in black has something to do with those incidents. Sasuke winced. Uzumaki. He still blamed himself for his attempted defection. Naruto was banished for simply doing his job in bringing him back. He kept his distance from Kakashi and Sakura. Kakashi had pretty much abandoned Naruto, while Sakura still called for his death behind Tsunade's back. In the months following Naruto's banishment, even he saw that things had went bad for the Leaf, despite what the civilian council had said. Konoha had lost every single trade agreement and alliance it has forged because of his former teammate and has become a virtual pariah in the shinobi community. Iruka Yumino was dead, having committed suicide in the months following Naruto's banishment. Like the others, he had forsaken Naruto in his time of need. It was Sasuke who had found his body, having slit his wrists with a kunai, unable to live with the guilt of betraying Naruto. Sasuke covered up the suicide in his official report, claiming that Iruka had simply lost the will to live. He was buried in the Konoha graveyard. Only Tsunade knew the truth. Iruka had left behind a suicide note. All it said was, "I'm sorry. He deserved better. We do not deserve his forgiveness. We all abandoned him in his darkest hour." On Tsunade's orders, Sasuke incinerated the suicide note. Tsuki and Ayame's business were hit hard in the following months. When confronted by Asuna Haruno, they refused to recant and declare Naruto a demon. The civilian council, led by Haruno, had virtually boycotted their ramen shop. In retaliation, Tsuki and Ayane closed down and moved to Wave Country, where the people welcomed them with open arms. Sasuke had heard that Ichiraku's was doing a lot better than it did back when it was in Konoha. The man in black has proven to be a worthy adversary, Asuma continued. We also gained some new information regarding him. Such as, Chusa Akamaiki prodded. He has a bloodline, Shino said. He didn't say its name, but gave a detailed description as to what it can do. Captain Sarutobi stated in his report in regards to the confrontation with Hidan and Kazuku that Hidan's immortality was nullified with his seals. It's the most logical conclusion that the man is a top-notch seal master, of which he verified when he fought Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki. He said that not only his bloodline boosts the seal's effectiveness, Asuma continued, but casting genjutsu on him would not work, as his bloodline makes him immune, as Itachi failed to pull him into Tsukiyomi. It also nullifies the Sharingan's ability to copy jutsu. Lastly, his bloodline also allows him to cast senjutsu level jutsu. No wonder why my Sharingan didn't work, Danzo thought, remembering the confrontation at the ruins of Chiraku's temple. But this boy is proving to be even more interesting every time I hear about him. I was careless the last time. He is a perfect candidate for being Konoha's ultimate weapon. Next time I see him, I will take him down. After defeating both Uchiha and his partner, he started to leave with his entourage, but he stopped and looked right at me, Asuma noted. His face? Did you see his face? Koharu demanded. Asuma shook his head. No, not his face. I saw his eyes. They were the color of pure gold. Then he turned and walked away. He had what he came for, so fighting us would have been moot. The bloodline could have something to do with his eyes, Shibi said. But that is just an estimated guess at best. Lady Hokage, this is very unnerving news, Hanmura said. We should place this man in the bingo book as AA-ranked criminal with orders to retrieve on sight. Whoever this man is, he has not killed any Konoha ninja, the Godime replied. And you know the law, Mitokado. Unless a Konoha ninja dies at his hands, then we cannot place him in the bingo book. I honestly think that the civilian council's stupidity is rubbing off on you and Koharu. Ignoring the blubbering advisors, Tsunade continued. My order still stands. Find him and bring him in. I don't care if you have to use diplomacy or brute force. At that, Sume Inuzuka smiled. After seeing the failed attempts of both generations of the Ino-Shika Cho trio, Team Guy and Danzu's root Anbu, the feral clan head was itching for a chance to fight the mystery man. It had been a while since the elite Junin had a good match, and she felt that the mystery man could give it to her.